Hello, and welcome back to the Librarian of the Rings. My name is Ben, I'm the librarian, and today we're going to be talking about the Season 2 trailer for the Rings of Power show. Welcome back. Last week we got the first trailer dropped for the Rings of Power show Season 2 that's going to be coming out at the end of August. And it's been a long time since we had anything substantial from the Rings of Power, so of course the internet went crazy over this, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about my feelings on the trailer, and also my feelings about the way that the internet seems to be reacting. Now, the internet is not a single entity unto itself. It's people all over the internet who are reacting to this, including myself. And I think we just need to take a more measured approach to how we are doing this. But first, let's talk about the trailer. I am not doing any shot-by-shot breakdown. I thought about doing that, but I wasn't able to get a video out right away, and a lot of people have already done that and explained it really well. Matt over on Nerd of the Rings has a really great video where he's breaking it down shot by shot and saying what each of those shots might be. Go ahead and check that out if you're interested in seeing what each shot might be part of. The truth is, there's just a lot that we don't know when we're watching a trailer like this. There's still a lot of unknowns. This is just meant to build excitement for the show. Now, that being said, when I watch it, what I see the most is this elvish storyline coming through. So there were a lot of storylines kind of broken up in season 1 amongst different groups of people. And what I really see coming through in this show is the elves, and particularly the elves in Aragian, the elven smiths. And I think that is a really good thing, because at the end of season 1, I think many people, including myself, were concerned that that was the end of Sauron's interactions with the elves, and it felt very unsatisfying considering the little bit of source material that we do have from the Second Age. So I'm excited to see that there seems to be an emphasis there. We did see some dwarves, we saw a little bit of Numenor, and we saw one shot of the stranger and maybe one shot of Harfoot. And so there's not really a lot coming from those storylines right now. The dwarves definitely seem like they are the second tier storyline here, so they kind of got the second most screen time during the trailer, and there does seem to be some big things building there, which is good because there should be significant overlap between the elves of Aragian and the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. That's an important part of the story overall. Now, we may get another trailer that really focuses on Numenor. We may get a trailer that really focuses on the Harfoots and what they are doing, or the strangers doing. That could still be coming. But as of right now, most of what we're getting seems to be focused in Aragian. We almost certainly have Sauron's Anatar form here. That is how he deceives the elves of Aragian. So it's good to see that part coming back. What I do hope is that we get plenty of development between the Anatar character, they might not be able to use that name due to rights, and Celebrimbor and the Smiths in Aragian. I want to see plenty of build up there before we get to the sack of Aragian. That looks like it's going to be a really big battle. We got a couple of shots that are probably part of it in the trailer, and I think it will work out well if there's a lot of build up to that point so that we have a lot invested there before the sack happens. In addition to that, there's a lot of shots that we just don't have enough context for to even know what they might be about at this point, and there's lots of speculation out there. There's really just no way to know. There are some big monsters, there are some big battles, there's some kind of crazy stuff going on in the water, but we just don't know what it is, and the point of this trailer is to build up excitement. And I have to say, for me, I'm more excited for season 2 now than I was before. With season 1, I'd say I liked myself about 75% of it. There was this whole thing with the Mithril and the Silmaril, which I didn't really understand, and it's still unclear to me, and I didn't love the reveal of Sauron at the end, the way that kind of worked out, and spending an entire episode on a battle in the Southlands just didn't seem to really fulfill for me. So those were kind of things I didn't like, but almost everything else I enjoyed watching. Now, whether or not it's completely accurate is kind of up to interpretation, because there's so little Second Age material, and so much of the little that we have they can't use. So they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, they don't have the rights to Unfinished Tales. So these books that contain most of the Second Age material that we have, they don't have. They're relying just on things that are talked about in the Lord of the Rings proper and the appendices, and they need to extrapolate from there. Now, they're not ignorant of these other books. They know they're there, but they have to tread a very careful line so that they don't step across where they have the rights to unless they get permission to do that. And they can work with the Tolkien estate to get those permissions, but they might not always be able to get them. Things like the name Anatar, for example, we don't know if they have the rights to use that, so we'll need to find that out as we go along. Obviously, the more they can incorporate from the books, the happier I'm going to be, because I love the books, but we have to go into it understanding that there are a lot of gaps that they have to fill in, and a lot of things that we just don't have enough detailed information on if we're going to do a show. Now, some people might then just prefer not to have a show, and that's fine. Nobody's making you watch the show. You don't have to. I, for one, want to see more of Middle-earth. I want to see more stories in Middle-earth. I know that I won't like all of them. I didn't like the Hobbit films in particular, and I really didn't like the last film at all, but I'm still glad that we continue to get stories of Middle-earth, even when we don't like it. And that being said, I don't know why people are being so hard on the Rings of Power. I think they kind of get in their head that it's Amazon doing this, as though Amazon itself were an entity, just like the internet is an entity. And Amazon itself is a company, but the people who are working on this are individual, creative people, many of whom have a deep love of Tolkien and are trying their best to produce something that they think is a good representation of Tolkien's stories. It may not always be what we think is a good representation of Tolkien's stories, but I think we can at least give them the benefit of the doubt. There's been so much hate around this trailer, and I don't understand why that needs to be. If you don't like it, you don't need to watch it. If you get partway into it and it's not going places that you like, you can stop watching it. They are walking a really difficult line between the legal rights that they have and the stories that they don't have legal rights to, but that they are trying to tell, and then also trying to please different types of fans. There are fans that have read absolutely every scrap of paper that Tolkien has ever written, and there are fans that have only read the core stories of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and there are fans that haven't actually read anything and are only Jackson Trilogy fans. And those fans might be actually the most difficult because they actually know the least and are extrapolating a lot of things from movies that weren't all that accurate to begin with. So this is a really fine line for these showrunners and the people who are working with them to be able to walk. And they will probably make some missteps along the way depending on your perspective on that, but each person is going to have a different perspective. And so I think we can offer them a little grace because it is difficult. To help you understand the difficulty here, I just want to read what Christopher Tolkien said in Unfinished Tales about the story of Galadriel. Galadriel's story is really important to Rings of Power, and it's one of the ones that seemed to make people kind of upset during season 1, although it didn't make me upset. We need to read what Christopher Tolkien said about this. He said, "There is no part of the history of Middle-earth more full of problems than the story of Galadriel and Celeborn, and it must be admitted that there are severe inconsistencies embedded in the traditions, or to look at the matter from another point of view, that the role and importance of Galadriel only emerged slowly, and that her story underwent continual refashionings." So this is the type of material that they're trying to deal with and trying to please people on, and nobody has the same picture in their head of Galadriel. Even if we only had the published material on Galadriel, people wouldn't have that. But all of this material that was published posthumously is really complicated and confusing at times. Galadriel's character is inconsistent. And so to use this one piece as an example, there's lots of different stories that they're trying to tell here, but to use Galadriel's piece as an example, the things that they did in season 1 were not inconsistent with parts of things that Tolkien wrote. They might be inconsistent with other parts of things that Tolkien wrote. There's no agreed on story of Galadriel. There's nothing that Tolkien said, this is the final story, this is how it's published. And so just give this a little grace as we go into it and view it for what it is, as a show and as an imagining of what Tolkien had, and not necessarily as an exact portrayal of the truth that Tolkien had, because that doesn't exist out there. So in the end, I think I'm just making the argument to let's wait and see. We still have 4 seasons of this show to go. If at the end it's bad, we can say that it was bad, just like we did with the Hobbit films. But let's at least wait and see, take a measured approach to this. If you really want to dive in deep on this kind of measured approach to adaptation, I really recommend that you listen to the podcast Other Minds and Hands that the Tolkien professor does with Maggie Park. It's definitely been helpful to me, and I think it'd be helpful to everyone to kind of understand the way adaptation works and to take a more measured approach to our view of it. All right, now if you can speak civilly about this, I would love to hear from you down in the comments. If you can't, then I prefer that you just don't comment on this video. There's plenty of other videos of angry people that you can go out there and comment on. All right, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, farewell wherever you fare. May your ears receive you at your journey's end.